So what we want to do in this particular episode is to make sure that when we click contacts, that's when we see contacts, and when we click chat or any other thing here, we don't see the contacts anymore. And also to make sure that the contacts are actually being read from the database, which is these contacts right here. Okay, so let's go back here to contacts, and then so our contacts are hard-coded in the HTML index.php page. So what I want to do is go to the same area here, starting with this whole div that contains all the contacts, and cut that information out of here. We don't need it in here. So I'm going to create a new file and paste in here. So let me just format this properly, tab key, and save this. So I'm going to save this in the includes folder, and I'm going to name it contacts. There we go, .php. Save. Great. Okay, so that this information should be read from the server. Now before we even deal with the database, what we want to do is make sure that API here is going to know where to redirect us when need be. So here, instead of getting here, we're actually getting user info, and this is what we're including. So we're doing something similar here. So I'm going to copy this part here and just press Ctrl+Shift+D to duplicate it, so that we have exactly the same thing here. You can simply copy and paste it. And then down here, we're going to change all this user info to contacts. So contacts. Why am I failing to spell this word? Contacts, like that. So contacts.php. Yeah. Okay. So it will go to this one right here. But just like in user info, let's go to user info so that we can see what we are up against here. So just like in user info, we are sending our information back as JSON. So JSON encode info. So the thing is, here we are sending a message, and then we are sending back the data type. Okay, info data type is equal to error. Okay, whereas here data type, we are given that. So if all goes well, we get this. If things don't go well, we get that. So we have to maintain this format. So let me come back here. Let me copy this. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my contacts.php. So right here at the very top, let's add some PHP here. Oops. There we go. PHP. And let's close that PHP right there. Okay, so let me tab here just to organize things a little bit better. There we go. Okay. So instead of wrong password, we're going to get this. We want to send this if things don't go well. Okay. So I'm going to say, instead of wrong password, I'm going to say no contacts were found. Okay. And then the data type is going to be error, of course. And then we're going to encode it just like that. Okay. Pretty cool. So, if we go back to user, where were we copying that from? There we go. So this part right here is what we get when everything is successful. So this is the part right here. So I'm going to copy this as well, bring it here for the successful retrieval of data. Now, since we're not going to get the data from the database so far, we're just going to paste this right there. So what I want to do is, since this has double quotes here, I'm just going to use single quotes to represent it as data. So I'm going to say my data, just to differentiate it, is equal to, and I'm going to put two single quotes like that, and then I'm going to paste my data in between those single quotes, right? So I could simply take it to another line just to be more clear what's happening. Okay, there we go. Let me tab this a little. All right, so my data is equal to this. So this is the data right here, and then I want to return this data. Result is equal to that, so we don't need this part right here. All we need is the data type. The data type is going to be contacts, of course, so let's change that. Contacts, very good. And then we want the message, so we're going to send it as the message, okay, just to be consistent. So I'm going to copy this and let me just duplicate that and just say message here. So the message is the data, so message is equal to my data right there. So we're putting it in that JSON like so. Good. So now we're returning the data, and we're returning the data type as contacts, and then we're going to echo out this part. But because we don't want to do this error part, we're just going to tell it to die right here, like so. So die, so that we don't reach the bottom of this. Now the reason we need this is we're going to need this in case we don't retrieve anything from the database when we do actually use a database. All right, so well and good. Okay, so now the issue is we need to activate a sending of a retrieval of information once this button is clicked, the contacts. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to go to, oh, and by the way, since I've removed this, if I refresh the page here, I'll see nothing here, which is expected. And so let me come back here to my this right here, contacts, right? So when somebody clicks on this, I want to see something happen. So in order to do that, I will add an on-click listener. Okay, now there are many ways to add an on-click listener. So I could, because this has an ID of label contacts, so let's try and use that. So let me just copy this and go down here and to our script and add an event listener, just like we did right here. Okay, so let's add this right at the top here. So I'm going to say var. I'll simply duplicate this because the process is exactly the same. So I'm going to duplicate that. Okay, and so I know the ID. Let me paste this here. Okay, so the ID was label contacts. So let me just leave the actual, the actual ID here like this. Okay, so let me use the same name or the same name right here. So this is the button for contacts right there, and I'll paste it here as well. So what I'm saying is add a variable called label contacts and get element by ID from this function, and the element is label contacts, which is that label, and bring it here. So we're just going to add an event listener to it, which is a click event, and then what we do once that happens, we run a function. So let's create a function name here that we're going to run. So we're going to call the function contacts. Maybe get contacts or something. Yeah, let's just say get contacts. That sounds more descriptive, so let me copy that. So all we need now is to create that function, and we can do so at the very bottom. So you can create these functions in any order that you want. So I'm just going to say function get contacts like so, and I'll put the E just in case I'll need to use that event like so. Alrighty, now that we have an actual function here, we can call the get data so that we get the data. So since we've organized it so well, we can simply copy this and it will still work, except we just change these to contacts. All right, so what we're telling it, get data. So obviously the function get data is right here. Where is this? There we go. So this one asks for what you want to find, and in our case we want to find an empty object, so we don't put anything there. And then here we want to specify the type of data we are looking for, which is contact, so that when it goes to the API here, it will be routed through this section right here, so it can include this file right here. Okay, so I hope all that is clear from this, and that's all we need to do. Oh, except one more thing. When the result comes back, so there's this handle result. So the result looks at what type of info was returned, and as you can see here, we're actually specifying the data type, which is contacts. So which means when the data comes back, it will be contacts. So we have to tell it what to do here. Okay, so as these will be similar to this what we are doing right here, so let me simply copy this and let's paste it right there. Okay, to speed things up. So but instead of username, we're going to get this container right here, which is the inner where is this item? It's this one right here. So it's inner left panel. That's the one we are targeting to add our info into. So we're going to get it right here, inner panel, and we're going to use that same name. So that's the only thing we're getting. So I'll delete this other one, and I'll delete this one as well, and then change username to there we go. So inner left panel .html, we're going to be object.message, of course. Now the reason we're using message here is because in the contacts.php, that's where we actually saved our data. So whatever word you used here, if I could have used data or info or whatever it is, because that's where I put this retrieved information, that's why I'm looking for message right there. Pretty good. Now the reason I use message instead of something else is because even when there's an error, I'm going to still use message. So I want the same thing to be displayed in the same place. So if I had used message and used data here, I would have to add an if statement here to check which one it is, but that adds more code, and we are here to create as little code as possible. All right, so on this one we are supposed to be done, so I expect to actually retrieve some data here. So let me refresh this and let's go ahead and click that guy, and let's see if anything is happening, and so far we get zilch. Okay, so obviously there's an error going on, so we could go and inspect the element, go to the console, and then we can see what errors we are having. So right now what I'm having is uncaught syntax error. Now syntax errors, I love these because it just means I just typed something wrongly. It's not the functionality that's wrong. So here it's saying syntax error, JSON parse, unexpected character at line 1. So what this usually means is that the returned data was not JSON. So which means there's probably some errors up there which we want to see. Now in order for us to know what error is coming back, I would rather we go here where the function get data, and before handle result right here, I want to see what the result actually is, because that error is telling me that the result is not JSON as expected. So let me just put an alert here right there. This is just temporarily, we're going to remove it, and let me go back, refresh the page, and yes, I got that information. Pretty good. But let me see what I get when I click on contacts, and this is what I get. So there's a warning right here saying creating default object from empty value in, okay, so in contacts.php on line 23, right? But the rest of it is actually JSON, valid JSON. So this is just a warning, but it's messing up our JSON. That's why we're having these problems. So I'm going to go here on line 23 and check what's really going on. So it's in contacts on line 23. So it's saying result, what is the error again? It's saying creating default object from empty value. Good. So what it's saying is that this result right here, I didn't declare it as an object, and I'm trying to force some things in there, even though it's not really an object. So let me declare it as an empty object first. So I'm going to say result, where is it? Oh, actually, so what I should do is instead, because info right here is declared at the very top in API right here as an empty object, so we are better off using info. So let me come back here and replace everywhere it says result with info, like so. This should probably solve our problem, and just to avoid receiving something annoying, so let me just comment this out. Alright, so let's refresh the page and let me click contacts, and we get the undefined. So undefined obviously means we didn't receive what we wanted also. So let me remove this again, refresh the page, click contacts, and let's see what we got. So we got a message here, quite alright, which looks pretty good, and then data type is contacts. Okay, so everything seems to be working fine. So why are we getting the undefined is beyond me. So we don't need this anymore because we know we are getting the correct data. So let me remove it and save it. But we are not being given what we want here. So let me come back here and just make sure that we have data type and we have message as the columns that we should be looking for. So let me come back here. So there we go. Contacts inner. So the fact that we are getting undefined in here means that we're actually managing to grab this. So this part should be fine. So the part that is wrong should be here. Object.message. Okay, so object.message is undefined. So did I spell it wrong? Of course I did. There's an A there. So I don't know which one is correct actually. How do you spell message? Right, I do have Google here, so you know, you end up forgetting the okay, my muscle memory actually knows how to spell it. All right, so it should be an A here. That's the correct one, so that should be the problem. And let's click contacts, and there we go. Awesomeness. But I bet if I click here, these won't disappear, and same goes if I click anywhere else. So in order to make that happen, we should retrieve new data each time I click on these in order to clear this data right here. Okay, and let me come down here. So we have the function called getContacts. Okay, and what we want now is a function saying get chat and get settings, right? So let's come down here and simply duplicate these guys. Simple and straightforward. So there we go. There we go. So now we have more functions than we know what to do with. All right, so get chat like this. So you can use it, you can use plural here, but yeah, get chats. That's fine. So of course we have to change this to chats as well. And then get what's this? Get settings. Right? So of course we change this to settings. Settings like so. Great. So now we can retrieve all this data here. So if without all right, but we still need to evoke these guys. So these functions need to be called. So where do we call these ones from? So if I remember correctly, get contacts, we added an event listener. All right, so let's add 2 more event listeners right here at the top. So let me go do this 1, 2, like so. Okay, so we have get contacts, get chats. Let's change that. Get chats and get settings. Now I don't remember the label names, so let me search for them. Let me just press here and go back here. Okay, so there's label. Why do I have? Oh, I don't have word wrap. Where is this? This is the wrong place. Is it? I bet not. All right, so this label here, label chat, label contacts, and label settings. So They are pretty straightforward. So I'm going to come back here and close that. So of course, label contacts, label chat. So let me copy this and replace here where it says contacts, like so. Okay, same thing here. Let me get the settings and replace here. Boop. There we go, and that's it. So now I'm calling those functions one by one. But in API here, there is we haven't given them what to do here. So if we simply call them as they are, let me refresh this. Chat, we get nothing. Settings, we get nothing. Contacts, there we go. Settings, oops, nothing comes back. So here we have to make provision for them, just like we did for contacts. Let me do this, and then I'm going to, okay, small space here, copy this down here and duplicate it several times. 1, 2, right? Good. So now here instead of contacts, so let me copy this. I'm going to say chats, and then down here I'm going to say settings. Boop. Settings. There we go. Great. So now we need to actually make these files, these chat.php and settings.php. So awesome. And we're just going to copy contacts.php to simplify things. So I'm going to copy, paste, paste. So this one will be chats, and this one will be settings. Boop. So let's open chat and let's open settings. Great. Now we don't want them to return this exact same data. So the only thing we have to do here is simply empty this my data section, like so. So in settings, I'm just going to put the word settings. Settings go here, something like that. And in chats, same thing. I'm just going to say chats go here. Great. So let's see if we're actually receiving anything. Or before we do that, getting too excited here, let's go to the handle result in index.php, right? So here we have a section which handles the user info, the contacts, but we need 2 more of these, of course. So what I will do is duplicate this a couple of times, like so, and then change everywhere it says contacts. I'm going to change, oops, this one will simply be chats, and this one will be settings, like so. So in its settings, oh, so if you notice here, both for chats, settings, it's the same code that we're actually getting. So I could have put it, doesn't really matter. I think this works just fine, just in case we need to fine tune each one of them anytime soon. All right, so let's refresh this and try this again. So chat, nothing. Contacts, there we go. Settings, nothing. There we go. So it seems there are some errors here. So let's go to the console again and inspect. Label chats is no. Okay, so label chats is no should be in the index.php, where we are creating a this one right there. So maybe it's supposed to be labeled chat without the S. Let me go back and see. There we go. So it's labeled chat. So let's go back here. So this is what's causing the error. So label chat, chat, chat. Right. Great. Let's try that again. Click, chats go here. Click, we see contacts. Click, settings go here. Awesomeness. So far so good. Everything is working fine. The only thing we need to do now is to actually read contacts from the database and add some chats and add some settings. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.